Welcome back to Launch Your Light, a podcast for the mystical and magical woman here to share her soul purpose. All right, I am back for another episode, and we have a magical guest on today. I am so excited to have Holly Hamel on this show. She is a transformational coach and mentor. We are going to talk everything from existential kink to shadow work to light work. We're going there. I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome, Holly.
Thanks so much. It is my deepest pleasure and honor to be here with you, Jayme.
Yes. All right, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to dive right in. And the first thing, I skip over the intros with people. I don't need to hear about how you started, and we're going to dive in.
Right.
That's how I am. I like to coach like that. I like to talk
Amazing.
like that. So this is called Launch Your Light. And I think one of the things people might think is like, oh, it's all about light workers, but I'm actually like a really deep person who likes to take people deeply. And there's a lot of shadow work that is done in uncovering your light. And I know shadow work is one of your favorite topics.
Mhm.
So, as someone that you might look at our pictures and see that we are bubbly women and, when we're colorful women, but you and I are like a mirror for each other, I'd say, on taking people deeply, quite deeply together. So, why don't we dive in there? What does shadow work mean to you? How did you start this? Where did that kick off for you?
Yeah. So, shadow work means to me that it is making the unconscious conscious. Carl Jung says that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will continue to rule our lives and we will call it fate. And
Mm,
that is such a powerful phrase for me because what I realized is it is important to, keep our thoughts positive and to, say positive affirmations and to make vision boards and all of those things. And that can only take us so far. And so what I found in my life, I got to a plateau where I wasn't able to progress any further with the love and the light and all of that sunshiny Pollyanna stuff that I was just naturally kind of programmed to be out of survival. And
mhm.
then when I realized that, oh, I'm ignoring this shadow side, this, don't like part of myself, that I wasn't able to fully progress and unlock even more of my light, unlock even more of my power and my potential because I wasn't addressing the things that were happening in my subconscious. It was like running like a computer program in the background, subconsciously that I wasn't even aware of. But we get to go into the subconscious and kind of look at these codes, these programs that are running and figure out, well, where did they come from? What is the purpose? What are the gifts there? And then how can we rewrite and upgrade them so that we can unlock even more light?
Ooh, yes. And isn't that where the world is heading, right? How much we're entering, I believe we're entering into a phase of some of the deepest healing
Mm,
and that the world has maybe ever seen. Just because of how many people collectively will be doing this. Like I talk about the world is going through a dark night of the soul right now. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Personally and collectively. And so you're a coach. And I think that, there's so much stigma around the idea of coaching and being a coach, but I'm like, this is the tool of the future. So you're
Mm.
currently a coach, you're a full-time coach. Tell us about
I
all the different places that you're a full-time coach.
Oh, yes, I am so in love with my life. Being a full-time coach has been such a magical experience, getting to help people on the scale and reach that I do, and then being able to be paid well for it and to have the lifestyle and opportunities to open up more and more abilities to train, more and more abilities to work on myself has been so incredibly rewarding. It's this beautiful feedback loop that's happening. So I work for the Little Volcano, which is where I met you, Jayme. We
Yep.
both attended the Bizcraft and Coachery coach training program, which has been just absolutely instrumental. Such a great first step for people that are looking to jump into this lifestyle to help so many people and do it in a profitable way. And so the Little Volcano, I'm a lead coach there, and that's been a dream come true. I've been with them for 4.5 years. I've been in the Volcano family, and then I've been a lead coach for just under a year.
Cool.
And it's been so fun to learn and grow with them. I just got back from Soul Quest, which is
Oh, yeah.
their in-person immersions that they've been doing. So definitely want to give you a link to that because that's just
Yeah.
life-changingly magical to be in proximity with these world changers and be around other people that are collaborating to do big projects.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I also work for the Immortal College, which is Carolyn Elliott Lovewell's school and magical order. It's another coaching organization community where you can do several different things. They have some in-person immersions called Sleepover Mystery School, which I did
Mm.
last year, and that was very magical. And then I'm a lead coach for Electric Yes, which is their subscription community. And so we do some very like scintillating high sensation coaching over there.
Ooh.
And she's got the book Existential Kink, and I'm certified in that. There's a Penetrate program is the coaches training course for existential kink certification. It's called Penetrate, and a bunch of other goodies that are happening there. And then I also have my own personal practice, and I have several programs that I run. Chain Reactor is a foundational one with, we talk about stories and how to rewrite your stories. We talk about relationships, how to have healthy ones. We talk about the dark side of the relationships and how to navigate that. We do a webinar section on shadow work where we feature existential kink. And then we do healing the inner child and connecting to joy, and then action is manifest, which is putting all of that work into action where we actually like set the goals and achieve them. And then I have a shadow work program called Sacred Darkness, and
Cool.
and I have Memento Magica, which is a program to practice high magic with a K.
Whoa, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
We could go in a million directions, but I
Yeah.
would say for our listeners, let's break down this like existential kink because I think people hear that word and they're like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But really, like even I'm fascinated by it as a coach. I need to get the book and read it. I've heard a lot of great things about it, but also it's like a way deeper look at what is running some of these programs. Is that correct? Like, how would you explain this to someone who's never heard of this?
Yeah, so it's the teeniest bit advanced work. And so so depending on where your listeners are, I do think that it's important to understand the duality of light and dark.
Hmm.
And that yes, we do have to train our minds to think positively, to set things in place to be in the light.
Hmm.
But once you reach that plateau where you can't, you're not continuing to grow or opening up, or things aren't changing at a rapid pace for you, then it's time to look at the shadow. And so I would say it's like an intermediate course. And so basically, the concept of existential kink is learning how to get off on the don't like things so
Mm.
that you can have more of the like things in your life.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Also, is there an angle at that too? It's like, okay, so I'm hearing get off on the things that you don't like, right?
Yep.
But isn't
Yep.
there also some another angle of it where she explores the idea of like where are you actually getting off on the things that are holding you back, which is why they're
Mhm.
still holding you back too?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So
Right.
basically, the concept is that having is evidence of wanting. Okay. So if you have a pattern that's repeating in your life, there is some part of you in your subconscious that actually wants it. And this is not
Mm.
to, shame, blame, or guilt you. It's not to say like, oh, there's no victim blaming. It's about looking at life in a more non-dualistic way. Because like I said, the first layer, the first beginner part is understanding this is the light, this is the dark. And then the
Mhm.
intermediate layer is saying like, oh, these things are working together. And it's our judgment that's saying this is light, this is dark, this is like, this is don't like. And what we realize is that we are here as humans to experience sensation, that we are here to, that we have the aspects of every single human archetype, behavior, expression. We're on a spectrum. We have the
Mhm.
whole cornucopia of human expression available to us, and we get to decide where we fit into like which archetype, and it can change with time. We are here to experience sensation. We are not here to be apathetic, to be disassociated, to not feel anything.
Mhm.
If we wanted to just be in the void, we would have just stayed there. And so we're here to experience like sensations with these bodies, with our five senses and extrasensory perception, with the violence and the pleasure and the comedy and the tragedy and all the things that make up the story of life. Like we're here to experience in sensation. And so
Mhm.
what existential kink does is it teaches you to realize that sometimes the if having is evidence of wanting, say you have a habit of being with the same like abusive guy again and again, like I can't understand why I keep getting in the same relationships. It's just the, same archetype, different face,
Mhm.
each time. You might be the common denominator, and that's okay. And so we're
Yeah.
not shaming that. And that's what makes it, that's why we use the word kink. Okay, so it's um liking, which means having, even if you don't realize that you're liking it. But it's liking something that you're not supposed to, or that, is typically like shamed, and so that's what makes it kinky. And so for instance, having, that repetitive or abusive relationship, seeking that again and again and again. Perhaps, it's your father and you're finding that in every man that you date subsequently, and realizing that there is some part of you that actually likes that because you keep drawing it in, and looking at that and realizing like, oh, I love the sensation of being um uh humiliated or objectified or um victimized. Like, oh, I just, and then like realizing like, oh, I'm, when I think about the sensation of being victimized, there is like a thrill, like really getting in somatically and being like, oh, like I'm not supposed to like that. But look at like, you can look at like actual kink, like BDSM, to get some clues, some
Mhm.
context to wrap your head around it.
Mhm.
So like, we're not supposed to like being spanked, but it's kind of cool sometimes in the right context, is it not? Some people actually like that. We're not supposed to like being like, restrained, but I mean, now and then that could be a little bit fun. And for me, for instance, I'll just be really vulnerable.
Yeah,
I
go for
I
it.
do like I love shibari. I love like, it's Japanese rope bondage. I love being
Mhm.
restrained because as a boss babe and codependent, I literally am tied up. I cannot help you, and there's such a relief
Mm.
that comes from that. Like I'm just like, I'm tied up. I can't help you. You have to do it yourself. And there's this like freedom and like sexual pleasure that comes
Mm.
from that sensation of I literally cannot, like it's almost like giving me a break from myself, like I can't
Wow.
go and save you. I'm literally tied up. So all I can do is just sit here and experience pleasure. And so that's like a glimpse. How's that tracking for you?
No, that's great because also I want to play with how that translates into private coaching because like that's you're a coach, right? So it's like this has helped
Question.
you. Like learning this and doing this and exploring this has helped you with your clients. And I would say in the same way that we would talk about this like behind closed doors as girlfriends, even though we're on a public podcast, right?
Sure.
Like it's got that vibe. It's the same thing that I bet happens in your private coaching sessions where people get to open up
Yes.
and talk to you about these fucked up shadows and things that they have inside of them and
Yes.
realize like, oh my God, wait. Right. So tell me, what does this look like behind closed doors with your clients?
Oh, it's absolutely like scintillating, sensational. It's very hot. Just high sensation is what we're looking for. And so we're really looking at
Mhm.
like when somebody has a repeating pattern, what is the gift? What are they actually getting out of that? And so we're completely taking out the judgment. We're taking out the right and the wrong, shame, blame, and guilt. And we're just being like, oh, you love being victimized, don't you? You dirty little bitch. It's like, these like, oh, you're so weak, and oh, you're such a damsel in distress, and like, and so it's this very flirtatious way of getting to play in these spaces that can be really alchemizing for people, because that which we resist persists. Okay, so if
Mm,
it's like this thing that we're just like, oh, I'm not supposed to like that, push it down, and then you've got somebody just like here for it, just eating it up with a spoon, just celebrating you for that dark, shadowy, naughty thing that you're doing, this destructive thing that you're doing to yourself. And somebody's
mm,
like, yes, I love it. Give me more. It can be so incredibly alchemizing. And just even talking about it brings it up out of the subconscious,
right.
makes it conscious, shining the light on it like dissipates the shadow. And so even just talking about it can integrate it. Sometimes it'll take more than one, session, or, doing some of the
Right.
existential practices, but just talking about it is hugely integrative. And then it just starts to not become a problem anymore.
Like, I want to kind of go into like the percentage of how many people in our country, we're both recording this in the US. So just in this country alone, we're probably living like unconscious patterns. You should see your face right now, like the
All
face
of
you just
us,
made, right? Like it's a
all of
lot.
us.
So, do you know any like stats? I mean, we kind of know this with like maybe not stats off the top of your head, but from Joey Dispenza, right, to the Carl Jung and all that therapy, it's like it's pretty high. How many people are just kind of living in patterns that they don't even realize are in control of them?
I mean, it's the way that we were designed. It's divine design. It's like, the subconscious is, we are mind, body, spirit, and shadow. It's how we were designed. So, I mean,
Mhm.
I venture to say that every single human that has consciousness is operating at some point from the subconscious.
Yeah.
There's so much like subconscious messaging, and then there's even, don't get me started on like past life,
Yeah.
subconscious things like that,
Right.
ancestral stuff that comes through. Like
Hmm.
our DNA is like a server. It's like a computer server and it's recording information. And so there's all of these like stacks and stacks and cache of like information that's sometimes like hidden so deep in places that are not, in our graphical user interface. We're not like conscious of it. It's stuff that's like so deep and far back, but it's recorded in there. So it's about pulling that stuff up and out and really
Yeah.
looking at, is this the most effective, efficient program we can be running, or do we want to rewrite it?
Oh,
Where the
and
power is.
and we're going to go there because, and you also mentioned magic, and I love that you're on here because this podcast is for the mystical and the magical woman. And I think you're a walking example. You're a walking, shining example of someone who's taken that like mystical, magical, feminine, energetic, and you've merged it with the more masculine, structural, strategic side. And you're living in this. This is your life.
Thanks. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I do want to go there with the mystical and magical. And
Good.
I love having you on because I can talk about these things and you're not going to be like, oh, what are you talking about? Right. But, I do spirit releasement therapy with people and with my coaching. And it's this idea that there are fragments of consciousness from this lifetime, from other lifetimes. There are energies, entities from us. There's a lot of stuff that can get trapped in our body
Yeah.
and that interfere and run these programs, whether it's like you're like just recently this year, I've had clients where we were able to figure out some of their abundance blocks was that they had energy from parents from another lifetime while they were on part of a sinking ship. And like they wanted to protect them. So they found them in all these other lifetimes and kept imprinting a
Yeah.
safety regulation on top of them and in their cells. And we had to like go in and get open with that and get clear on that and
Yeah.
to see it and pull it out and look at this and then do energetic wound care. Like I know this sounds far out to people, but I don't know. Shit's getting weird on the planet. I think it's time to talk about everything from this spirit and energy work to the kink work, right to the shadow work.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited about all of
Yeah,
it.
that's really interesting that you bring that up because the teacher that I studied with for like 12 years before I even came to the volcanoes was doing that type of work that you're referring to. So she calls it divine intervention.
Mm,
And so I had a lot of work done as a recipient of that kind of thing, like breaking those like soul contracts and like removing entities, archons and ETs and things
yeah.
like all the
Yeah.
different implants, things that,
Hmm.
sound kind of crazy. But honestly, this reality that we're living in, it's really like our imaginations and what we believe is more real than this tangible dimension that we're in. And so if somebody
Hmm.
believes it and that can help them to be released, then it's just as real as, something that might be able to measure. I think we're finding this fusion between spirit and science, and we're starting to realize that there's really not as much difference as we thought. There's definitely
Hmm.
a link there. The double slit theory, there's all different, the double slit experiment, there's all different quantum entanglement and all the
Yep.
things that are starting to lead towards, that science and mysticism are building that bridge. And my belief is that if a person believes it, and it's, our beliefs like create who we are, the
Yeah.
stories that we tell ourselves create who we are. And so if a person believes it, then it can work for them.
And on that, okay, like with the believing it, also translating that over to when if people believe something wrong, like if they've created and have taken in a truth about their trauma, about
Yeah.
their life experience, about any of that. So it's not even like the things that you think can help. It's also like the truths on what you believe and
Right.
how that is creating frequency, right? That
Right.
is emanating from your body about like being a victim,
Yeah. The
being
stories
in
we tell
trauma,
ourselves.
right?
Yeah.
All the stories and like
Yeah.
everything, even like I'm stuck at this job because, right? It's everywhere. Like
Yeah.
the beliefs are, they're in our cells,
Yep.
they're in our mind, they're in our mental field, they're in our emotional field, they're in all of our fields, right? It's everywhere, you know? So, oh my God, I feel like I'm just all
Because this
over the
whole
place with
reality
you.
that
It's
we're
all,
experiencing, it started with consciousness first. It started with like imagination first. And so the beliefs is what created this, not the other way around, you
mhm,
know? So that's my belief at least. But the way that like these stories and things relate to the stories that we tell ourselves, these belief systems that we have, the way it relates to existential kink is existential kink is giving you a reframe to show you how, if you really stop and feel into your body, you can realize that the things that you don't like are actually like really, really close to the things that you do like. And I'll share an example of
yeah,
that. So,
please, please.
okay. So one of the first like moments that I had where I just really like fully grokked, like, and like somatically, I felt it in my body, like what existential kink was downloading for me was I was in a little bit of a disconnect with one of my friends. We were like having like some distance between us, like not seeing eye to eye. And she came to me with this thing, or I heard it through our other friend, this audacious expectation that she had. And I was like, are you telling me that she wants me to da 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 da? And it was just so completely like out of the realm of, it was just audacious. It was complete like audacity. And I like immediately felt this like rush of like heat of like blood coming to the surface. I was like, is this rage? You know, and I was just like the audacity. I was like shocked. I was breathless. I was like, I cannot believe, you know, and then I was like, and I was excited and like just worked up, you know, I was like having such high sensation with that. And then I was like, and there was a small voice that was like, I can't wait to tell someone, you know, I cannot wait to tell the tea on this situation or whatever. And I was
Right.
like, hold on, like I'm getting pleasure out of this. And then I stopped and I felt the
Mm,
feeling that I was having. I'm like, I am actually turned on. This is like, even though it's like this like rage, like boiling up, it is the
yeah.
same exact physiological sensation as when I'm sexually aroused. And I was like, I cannot wait to tell
Wow.
someone this. And
Wow.
laughed at myself because I'm like, I am so like stimulated right now. And there was this still small voice that I almost didn't catch, but I was like, I cannot wait to tell, you know, and I was like, oh, I'm enjoying the theater of this
Ooh,
audacity. I'm enjoying, like, I'm so, you know, I'm doing air quotes, like, I don't really like it. Like, I don't want somebody to come to me with like audacious, like,
right.
can I believe you ask or asking me to do this thing, audacious behavior? But there was a part of me in my subconscious that was getting super turned on by it, so much that I couldn't wait to share it. Like, let me tell you the tea, sis, you know? And I was like,
Mhm.
what? And you know, of course I don't want to like, you know, I'm like a coach and I'm like, you know, proper and I don't gossip and like, you know, all these kind of things. I want to tell myself all these things in the light. Truth was, in my shadow, I was excited by the audacious thing that happened. So I can't wait to tell the person, you know, to have this like theater, this drama thing. And I was like, oh my God, I have a kink for audacity.
Ooh,
Yeah, like come to me. And it makes so much sense because I'm a theater kid and I love like theater of the absurd and just, you know, like shocking, you know, just absurd stuff. And so
yeah.
I'm like, well, completely tracks. If I really sit and think about it, I'm like, of course I would have a kink for audacity. Like I just love, you know, that high stimulation, that like clutch my pearls, like, what? I can't believe this, you know? And so yeah, so that was like the first time that I really felt it somatically. And I was able to catch myself in the moment, realizing that the don't like sensation was actually the exact same as like a turn on sensation, that I was getting off on the don't like situation of audacity. And then once you realize it, just kind of it just stops happening. Like, you know, people,
Right.
it just kind of like, oh, I see you. There's
Hmm.
light on it now, the light
Hmm.
of acknowledgement, of awareness, and therefore the shadow starts to dissipate. And so people don't come to me with audacity as much anymore. Every now and then I like to microdose it just for fun.
Hey, but you're in the consciousness of it. You're in the awareness of
Yeah,
it.
And then when it happens, like a microdose of it, at first I'll be like, well, how dare? And then I'll be like, oh, that really wasn't that bad. And I was like, I'm actually calling this in because I like to have a little taste now and then of shadow
Mm,
because I like
yes.
contrast. We are creatures of we like contrast. We want light and dark. We want contrast to create the light.
Mhm.
We want a little friction because friction is hot.
Yo, yo, my head is going. I want to keep going with examples because I've got a few in my head that I'm thinking and I want to that are like maybe for other people and I want you to tell me if you think this is like some of that
Let's
kink stuff.
go.
I would say and they're basic like so like they're basic and let's say but like some of I've noticed even I was listening to one of these books, one of the coaching books, and it was like, are you the person that waits for something to get so bad? And then you address like you wait for it to get like letting your taxes pile up, letting this thing that you need, like letting the deadline get close because you actually get off on being the problem solver. I was
Mm.
like, yo, when I heard that, I was like,
Mm.
that kind of sounds like this. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, so you're creating these situations that you then have to like come in and be the problem solver and the hero and like that thrill you get and the aliveness and that like obsessive kind of thing that you have to get at the end of the time ticking up. You know what I mean? Like the time
Oh,
leading up,
exactly. Yeah, it's
you
just
know?
crazy. Yeah, that like maybe like an overwhelm kink, and so it gets to this
Yeah.
point, like builds to this crescendo, just like an orgasm,
Right.
building in sensation, getting higher and higher and higher until all of a sudden you have to have some grand action. You swoop in
Yep.
against all odds. There's everything stacked against you.
Yep.
Yourself. And
Yep.
then you get to be the hero and be like, look at what I did under these extreme circumstances. Like they're there. I'm so great, and
Yeah.
it's sensational. And it's like, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so this is, I think one of the biggest parts is just like taking the shame and the naughtiness out of it, just like really
Right.
celebrating the humanness of us doing these funny things that we do and letting it be okay because that
Yeah.
would this persists. So if you remove the resistance, then things can flow and then you can remove the blocks and then you can create even more power and even more light.
Mm. I think stress is another one that people have kink over at this point on in our
Yeah.
country. You know,
Yeah.
they're like they source. I call it sourcing from stress. Like I had to
Mm.
notice it within myself, and then I have to see it in my marriage and our house, and then I can look outward. You know what I mean? Starting in and being like, "Am I sourcing from stress?" I realized that 2 kids last year. I was like, "Nope, nope, this can't be where I'm sourcing my
Mm.
energy from." I help my
Mm.
husband with that, just like and I think that's big in our country,
Yeah.
right? What's the kink to that?
Yeah. My degree is in health behavior, and I remember this very like poignant piece of stress that it creates the adrenal response, and there's stress of like, oh no, these high pressure things are happening, and it's difficult, and don't like situations. But then there's also stress. It's EU stress, and those are from things that are like exciting, like holidays or family vacations or
Mm,
things you're looking forward to, and so you're ramping up but it still hits your body the same way. The neurochemicals and hormone cascade and all of the things that are happening, cortisol, it's still kind of affecting your body in the same way. And so whether or not you put the filter of this is great and exciting, or this is like drudgery and like, the rat race, it doesn't really matter. You're still getting off on the, those adrenal responses. And,
mm,
so it's important to look at how can you do that in a way that's therapeutic rather than destructive?
oof.
You want to hear how?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the existential kink practice, and I highly recommend everyone go out and buy the book today. It's
Yeah.
it's great on to have a hard copy of it because there's some exercises in the book, and it's also great to have it on Audible. I would say get both because most people who get the book, they read or listen to it like more than 5 to 10 times. Like it's one of those that you just
Wow.
it's put really simply, but it's kind of an abstract concept. She wrote about it really accessibly,
Hmm.
but sometimes but people and also it's just really enjoyable and fun. And the way that she narrates it is very lovely. And
Mm.
so I would say get a copy of each format and listen to it and read it like multiple times. But the way that it's done in a therapeutic setting, the way that you're able to, get these boxes checked, get these kink itches scratched, is by doing it with the existential kink meditation. And so you do it in a closed container where you meditate on the don't like thing and feel all the sensations and visualize, the thing that you don't want happening.
Hmm.
You don't actually, you do, but you don't.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
meditate on the don't like thing and even get off on it if you want, like you could take it as far as you want to with it. But basically, you let yourself like enjoy and experience, because what we're experiencing in our imaginations, our bodies don't know the difference. We can have like a full adrenal response thinking about like a bill that's come due when
Absolutely.
actually you've got the money in the bank and you pay it and it's like nothing bad
Right.
actually happened. But in your body, you're like, I'm being chased by a monster.
Yeah.
Like if you think about, I love this example, like if you think about, um, so everyone that's listening at home, think about this bowl of lemons. You've got this beautiful bowl of lemons, and they're incredibly bright and yellowy, and they've got the little dimpled surface. And you take a lemon out, and you cut it in half, and you can see the lemon zest just like squirting out, and it's juicy on the cutting board. And then you cut a little slice out, and then you've got like a nice little wedge, and then you take a big sniff of it, and you can just smell that lemony, citrusy goodness. And then you put it in your mouth and bite down on it. And most of you will probably be salivating right now.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
And so I'm just telling you a story. I'm just using
Right.
words, and you're, having in your imagination, you're having a physiological response. And so that's why this works so well. Like when we really somatically drop into our bodies and we let ourselves feel the pleasure of, the stressful work day, or the audacity, or oh, I'm so victimized by my relationship, and, whatever thing that we want, like we get to have that. And our brains and bodies don't know that we're not actually checking that box in reality. So it kind of it checks it off for you. And then you don't have to experience it in this dimension. You don't actually
Yeah.
have to deal with audacity. You don't have to actually deal with stress in this dimension. But there's a part of you that wants it, especially if there's a part.
Right.
So you give it a little snack. You do it in a meditative state, so that you can check that box and then you can move on. That's just
Hmm.
one small part of it. There's a lot more to the practice in the book, but that's a little
Oh, I
glimpse.
can't wait. I need to get it. It's been on my list for a while now. Michelle that I connect with, Michelle Zackerson, she's also in it, and
Mhm.
we talk about it almost on every single one of our episodes, that her episodes, little sessions that her and I have together.
Wonderful.
So it just needs to happen. Can I bring up one of the times that I actually saw you do this live was on one of our coaching calls,
Yeah.
our group coaching calls in the challenge, and there had been a person that was a bit challenging for the group, and you were her coach in that. And it rocked you a little, like, you know what I mean? And you were sharing that with us. And
Hmm.
that's why if you're
Hmm.
hearing me, guys, so good to have a peer-to-peer group where you can show up naturally with what's going on. That's why I'm like so thankful for the volcanoes and the containers they set up for us in support as their coaches. That's just a side note. Like, you got to do this and be open with us, but I got to witness you do something where you it would have been a great time for anyone to light wash you through the situation, be like, you don't need to think like that. You're such a good,
Right.
no, be positive. No,
Right.
rewrite that. No, repattern that. All the like
Toxic
positive stuff.
positivity,
Yeah. And in the
bypassing.
moment you got to say, you like share, you shared yourself, you had a need, and you were like, actually, I just want to be seen as this, right?
Right.
And I can't remember exactly what
I'll
it was, but
share.
let's say
Yeah.
it was. Yeah. Do you remember what I'm talking
Oh, I
about?
do. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take it
Yeah.
away.
Okay. So what I was noticing that was happening, like a little bit of like expository backstory, was I was getting more and more powerful. I've been doing, a lot of magical practices, and I was growing in the volcano community. I was like kind of coming up as like one of the top performers and most requested coaches and things like that. So I was growing in power and influence and wealth, which was like, something that still gives me a little thrill to think about. Like I'm still like a little scared. Like, can I actually say that aloud? Can I say that?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's still some sensation around that. But what I think was happening in that moment was because of all this growth and getting bigger than I'd ever been, having like really expanding my capacity in those areas, there was I was almost overcoupled is like one of my teachers calls it. And so it's like the sensation was getting so high there in a place that wasn't balanced. And so I think that I, spiritually called in this a challenging client who just who was very much in victim energy and just wanted to, she was victimized by every single thing that happened in like her small group and this, that, the other. And she was just doing that. She even has like, tattoos that were like, anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but like this person is really like enjoying doing the victim role and, good on you. We're on this life to do free will and do whatever makes you happy, whatever gets you off, I'm here
Mm-hmm.
for it. And so what I realized, we met in this, beautiful crucible to,
Mm.
serve each other. So in her eyes, I was, the villain didn't coach her the way she wanted or something like that. And then she was
Right.
like, and so then she like, I don't even remember what her complaint was. It was like, I can't remember, but she was like, oh, Holly victimized me. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was like, well, actually, I'm the one being victimized here. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just trying to help you. Like, oh my goodness, and so yes, on a cognitive, tangible level, like I should see, like, oh yeah, like you can't heal them all. This whatever, I know that I'm a great coach. I have all these other positive accolades, things that, cognitively give me that information. But
Right.
let me look at this from an existential kink point. I have
Yeah.
to be growing so much, so fast in, in coaching power and healing people and in abundance and influence, all these things that here's this contrast, this friction, this very, very hot
Mm.
friction that we all secretly want coming in and, quote unquote, victimizing me. And so, because it was just audacious. It was audacious, like what she would say, because it wasn't true.
Right.
And so instead of just being like, I just need to be like reaffirmed that, I am a good coach. I mean, I have all the, reviews and things like that. I can look in my
Right.
own
Yeah.
box for that, that's fine. But what I really got out of that particular session, I asked all of my coaches and my team of leads to just tell me, poor Holly, you were so victimized by her. Like she should have never done that to you. And you
Yeah.
poor thing. Like that was, and so I just asked for all these verbal strokes. Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes it's upstrokes, like, yes, you did a great job. Kudos, here's a raise. That's an upstroke. And sometimes it's a downstroke of like, you don't fit in or you're whatever.
Right.
We can, figure out, you know, your rent is doubled, whatever, like downstrokes. But either way, you're getting stroked, right? Either way,
Right.
you're getting stroked, and eventually you're going to come to a climax. And so
Right.
all strokes are good strokes. And so what I wanted in my particular request for strokings is for everyone to tell me like, poor Holly, like you poor pitiful thing. You shouldn't have la 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 la. She shouldn't have treated you like that. And then also there was like a little hint of like, I wanted a little superiority thing. Like, doesn't
Mm.
she know how good and holy you are? You're so sacred. You would never do blah, blah, blah. Like the audacity for someone so good and pure like you being accused of la 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 la, and so I was doing
Yeah.
that for a while. Like I had this funny, like wrongly accused kink for a little while. Like people just like being wrong about me when I'm like, how dare you think anything wrong or bad about me when I'm so incredibly pure. And so I got to like have this little superiority stroke. And then they have to come back and be like, sorry, Holly, we were wrong. You are good and pure. And I'm like, I know. And so
Oh,
it's just
this is
this
so
whole like
good.
drama, I'm having such a good time. Like it's just I'm so like stimulated and like
Hmm.
stroked through all of this. And so my loving team, including Jayme, yeah, you were all able to just tell me exactly the things that I wanted to hear. And then it was done. And then I
It
had
was.
fixation after that. I don't even remember what she said about me. Like I'm just I don't know.
Right.
I got that box checked. My
Mm.
sensation was like complete and, had the energetic orgasm and moved on with my power and continued to grow and shine. So
I gotta tell you, on my end, I was cooking and I'm like, in my head, I had this like thing I wanted to share with you about how powerful I witnessed you and how much I adored you and really respected you and looked up to you. And then that activity started. And I was like, what the fuck's
what
going
do
on? I was like, this is the first time I had seen that. And I was like, did she just ask to be the damsel in distress and
Yeah.
everyone's giving it to her right now? And then I
Yeah.
was like, and I watched the whole thing happen and I was like, it was like I was like, I think
Sensational.
it was amazing. And then it was over and I was
Right.
like, what the fuck just happened? And I was like, that was some of the most powerful shit I just saw. How have we almost like trained ourselves to be in such support to like build a person up and lift them up, but really in the moment, are they just needing to be seen in where they are?
Yeah, I needed to have a balance because my capacity was expanding so big to where I hadn't been before. And I needed to just have a little bit of like a homeopathic dose of, weakness or something like that. I was
Yeah,
growing so strong. And so like, and it's just understanding we have to understand the duality before we can understand the non-duality, and so
right,
and because it's really truly everything everywhere all at once, and so it's this space of kind of working through like the dimensional experiences and realizing that as I'm growing there is an equal and opposite reaction down here that needs to also be addressed. And
right,
and because sometimes we won't grow because like if we grow so big and strong and powerful, then like what if nobody is like, oh, poor Holly anymore, and there's like some
right.
sweet little stroking thing that happens there that I like, you
Hmm.
know? And it's like, it's the same thing like when people are like, healers and helpers and nobody asks how they are, because they're like, oh, they're strong,
Right.
got it. Sometimes you do want to just be like, oh, you poor pitiful thing, are you okay?
Hmm.
And that's essentially what was happening there is like there was a piece in my subconscious that wanted to be a little girl, that wanted to be a sweet little innocent thing that
Right.
was not responsible for, the weight of the world and all of people's
Hmm.
healings and the,
Hmm.
all the responsibility that goes along with that power. There was a
Hmm.
piece of me that wanted to just enjoy that little, weak softness too.
Yep. With
Yeah.
this, along with this, I actually started to, in my family with my children and my husband, and even myself, asking, what do you need right now? Like
Yeah.
when that's starting to happen and like positive affirmations ain't gonna like help the meltdown 3-year-old. Like that's really helped
Yeah.
me to ground and anchor in that and be like, even to my 3-year-old, what do you need right now? And to my husband when he's getting it, what do you need right now? Right before we go into full blown this and that.
Sure.
Also, I feel like just with what you were saying, how many people are actually afraid of success because of what
Hmm.
you just brought up, right?
Hmm.
It's like I
Yep.
think more people are actually afraid of succeeding and what that means than failure.
Ding, ding, ding.
There's a
Yes.
there's a kink wrapped in there. I know there
Oh,
is.
oh, absolutely. Because with great power comes great responsibility.
Hmm. Yep.
And that was something that kept me small for a really long time because if I am powerful, then I have to be responsible for all these things. And what if I just want to, be a sweet baby girl sometimes,
Right.
and have someone else take care of things. It's that, you can again like relate it to the kink of like, oh, I'm tied up, I can't help you, and
Hmm.
so just
Hmm.
making sure that we're like looking at ourselves as like multidimensional beings and addressing the shadow because we cannot grow bigger and in more capacity with the light without addressing the shadow. And because I was able to do that, I was no longer, victimized by that situation. And because before that, I had like gotten in a bit of a thought loop of just being, it just was in my craw. I couldn't like, I just couldn't get it out of my field. And then I
Hmm.
did that. And then it was immediately like integrated, move on, keep shining.
Hmm. The way I explain this is when I talk about it in my book, the expansion and contraction and being like in that constant birthing process, right? Where it's like even a spectrum in physics, right? We have an expansion and you're going to have an immediate equidistant opposite reaction
Right.
to that. And that's what most people
Right.
don't want to change or expand on because when you get into these behaviors and you're growing and transforming, you realize like, oh, this is just it's natural, right? It's part of living in the on this planet and in
Right.
the web of life that there will be a opposite of that. Of course, people want to avoid this, you
Yeah,
know?
but you just can't avoid it.
You
It's
can't.
so important to like address that too, and look at like, if I'm having this problematic don't like thing happening again and again and again, what is the actual gift that I'm getting out of it? And somatically
Mm,
dropping in and being like, well, what am I, even though this feels like it's taking away from me, what am I actually getting from it? I get to be this person or experience this sensation with it. And then if we are able to experience those sensations in a a therapeutic setting, just like y'all did for me with that.
Hmm.
Like I was like, okay, all my coaches and my team, my loved ones, I need you to say these theatrical things to me that aren't
Hmm.
actually true.
Hmm.
But I need to hear them and have this whole like crowd of voices saying these things to me. And then it completely broke me out of that. Because I was stuck in the capacity, like I couldn't get bigger in this direction until I like handled this little piece. And then after that, I was
Absolutely.
able to expand my happiness, my
Hmm.
ability to expand more
Hmm.
happened because I was able to address the contraction.
Yeah, we can only ascend as far as we have been able to descend,
Yeah, as
is what I
above, so
believe on that.
below.
Yeah, like the anchoring in, and that's creating heaven on earth, is being able to like really deeply rooted anchor our light onto the planet.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. It's the hermetics, it's like as above, so below, as within,
Yep.
so without. Like these
Hmm.
things are happening like outside of us, but it's really like an inside thing. We're creating it with our stories and our imagination all along.
Oh, also, can I just give a shout out to the volcanoes too, because they were the perfect team for you to be able to bring that with, and they ate it up.
It was so,
The way Kit and Rosie leaned in
oh,
on that, and
so
all of the
precious.
coaches, I was like, yeah, that is perfect. So just giving them a plug too.
Yeah,
Like,
and
oh,
and the challenge that we were talking about, the get yourself together challenge, was where we get to reach so many different people and have them
mhm.
for this week or two where we're all just like sharing so vulnerably, and like so much energy is happening, and like so much is being built and so much is being released, and they create this like really like magical container for that, which is what was the playground for this event
Yeah.
to come up for me. Yeah.
Actually, why don't we have that be one of your links in here too, if you want? We can put a
Yes.
bunch of links in the show note. The one of them
Yes,
could be
please.
for you to challenge them. They run every 6 weeks for anyone who's listening right now. You can have her or I be your coach in that
Yes.
challenge. It's a fun transformational week. I'm about to have them on the show too, so they can talk more about the challenge. But why don't
Good.
we have that be one of the links that you have
I
in the
would
show
love
notes?
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's spend the next minute. How can people get in touch with you? And again, I will take whatever information you want me to put in there, but just for an audio, we're like, where can they find you? How do they work with you? What does that look like?
Yeah. So if people want to find my website, it's www.holly, HOLLY dash Hamel, HAMEL.com. And then I also have a link tree that Jayme will post in the show notes here that you can connect with me and figure out different ways to work with me. You'll see my affiliate link for the Little Volcano Get Yourself Together Challenge. If you want to connect to the Immortal College and Carolyn Elliott's Lovewell's community, you can find out how to do so there. And then also I just do, the private coaching to the chain reactor with the stories that we've touched on many times. Sacred Darkness, my shadow work program, and Memento Magica, where you learn to practice high magic, which also I think is a big part of,
Mm,
my being able to expand and to grow.
yeah. Ooh.
I
Okay. We will definitely have to have you back on the show because this was
would love
just so
that.
much fun talking to you. Oh,
Indeed.
Holly, thank you for coming on and just exploring all of these amazing topics. And I really believe that this episode is going to be so inspirational for other women out there who are like, they're doing what for work? Like we're
Yeah.
living it. We're living it. We're living, breathing examples of mixing our magic,
Yeah,
right?
it's absolutely like thrilling. It's like I'm living my best life every day. I wake up and cannot wait to get started with work. And I've never been like that before. And I
Mm.
absolutely love this. I would love to maybe even do like an existential kink coaching of you sometime if
Oh,
you wanted to share that. That would be a really high
absolutely.
sensation, fun way for people to get to know you better too. And then also to see like what the process is like.
Oh, I say yes to that.
Okay, yeah, that would be
Okay.
really
All right. Thank you so much for being on here today. I hope people run and go figure out how to find you and work with you. Thank you so much for today's call. And for anyone listening, we will see you on our next episode.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Amy. I appreciate you. Bye.